All right, welcome in. Saturday afternoon, the much-anticipated 49ers roster moves are in. First, a nice little look at San Francisco today. It's just gorgeous outside, but I'd rather sit down here in the studio and give you the 49ers update. Then we'll head back outside. Adrian Martinez has been elevated from the practice squad to the game day roster. He has not been promoted to the full 53-man roster. And I know that we've talked about how complicated this could have been today. I think it still was a bit of a Rubik's Cube, but the Adrian Martinez news does rule out one possibility for Brock Purdy tomorrow. That means that Purdy is not going to be the 49ers quarterback 3, the emergency third quarterback. Why? Well, because by rule, Adrian Martinez would have had to been promoted full-time to the 53-man roster, not just elevated for game day, for Purdy to dress and be that emergency third quarterback. So we can rule out one of the Purdy possibilities. We cannot rule out the chance of him starting, even though that's highly unlikely. And we definitely cannot rule out QB2 for Purdy tomorrow. That is all still in play. It's QB3, the emergency spot that he is no longer eligible for because Adrian Martinez has just been temporarily elevated from the practice squad. Remember that a lot of this is going to go up to close to kickoff, 90 minutes before kickoff tomorrow. Kickoff is at 1:25 p.m., so an hour and a half before that is when the 49ers have to submit their inactive list. So we'll see how Brock Purdy feels when he wakes up tomorrow. The toe has been a day-to-day thing. It has improved over the course of the week. If he's feeling up for backing up Mac Jones tomorrow and the 49ers deem that everything is A-OK in that regard, he might be QB2. We just don't know at this point. We do know, though, that they've ruled out QB3 as a possibility. And hands a little bit tied in this situation because you had to decide something on Adrian Martinez by the deadline today. And the deadline today yielded Adrian Martinez being elevated from that practice squad. A couple other moves for the 49ers. Spencer Burford is headed to injured reserve. This was expected after hearing Kyle Shanahan talk yesterday. He mentioned that a surgery for Spencer Burford's knee is possible. That has not yet been confirmed, but this is the 49ers' top swing tackle. They did not elevate Brandon Parker from the practice squad. So if we now look at the 49ers roster, we can make some sense of this. By the way, the third move the 49ers made today was that Malik Turner has been elevated to the 49ers roster from the practice squad, game day roster, not the 53. So he can help pick up some of the slack at the receiver position. But now to make sense of these three moves, we actually need to see the roster and how they all fit in context of what the 49ers are doing. All right, so first move, Spencer Burford to injured reserve. This is Spencer. He is the backup left tackle and the backup right tackle for the 49ers. We're going to erase him off the 53-man roster and take him down to IR. As you can see, only one other tackle right now behind Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz on the 53-man, and that is Austin Pleasance. So Pleasance, who had been the strict backup for right tackle, and Colton McKivitz now is going to have to be the swing tackle. He's going to also have to back up Trent Williams. They initially, and this is during the first parts of training camp, the 49ers had talked about having dedicated tackle backups. So Spencer Burford being the specialist for the left side if Williams went down, Austin Pleasance being the specialist for the right side if Colton McKivitz went down. We did notice over the course of warmups during the first game of the season at Seattle that Spencer Burford was also the primary backup at right tackle. So over time, the 49ers have obviously developed confidence in at least one of their backup tackles to be able to handle the swing role, handle both sides. I think that this news today, putting Spencer Burford on IR and not elevating Brandon Parker, who had been signed to the practice squad earlier this week, means the 49ers have confidence in Austin Pleasance backing up both sides. So we go to injured reserve. We put Spencer Burford's name on there. Now, the reason that I keep such diligent track of this is because the 49ers had to think of a lot of different stuff today while making these roster moves. And one of the things that you have to consider whenever you do put somebody on injured reserve is the fact that you only have 8 return from IR designations. The 49ers are already going to use one on Kevin Givens. He was put on that IR list at the cut down, so that counts as one. Now they have got 4 other guys, Jacob Cowing, George Kittle, Ben Barch, and Spencer Burford on IR. And by the sound of it, all 4 of those guys are going to be available to return at some point this season. To return them, you're going to have to use 4 of your 8 return from IR spots. So immediately you've got 5 of 8 return from IR spots taken up, and it's only week 3. This is why the 49ers have to be careful about who they put on IR. On top of that, they're also going to want to return guys from PUP and NFI. So that might actually fill up their entire list of 8 because Brandon Ayuk, Malik Mustafa, maybe even Curtis Rourke need to come back this season. So the 49ers, I mean, stuff has added up. We get it. It snowballed for San Francisco, but they also value the roster spot now. They're going to need one for Demarcus Robinson coming off the suspension next week. So they went ahead and put Spencer Burford on injured reserve. That means that he must miss at least 4 games for the 49ers. So that is faith in Pleasance. The Adrian Martinez elevation just means that Brock Purdy can't be the emergency third quarterback, although it's still TBD on Purdy's status for tomorrow. Some possibilities still on the table. And then Malik Turner elevated at the receiver room. So let's go to the receiver room now on this depth chart. You could see that Juwan Jennings has the ankle injury on top of the shoulder injury that he went into the Saints game with. He did not practice this week. He's questionable for this game. If Jennings can't go, we know that Jordan Watkins has already been ruled out. They did not place Watkins on IR today, probably because they do have the very, very limited amount of return spots from those injury lists, so they had to make sure to preserve those. But Watkins is out. Jennings is questionable. If Jennings can't play, Malik Turner is a good big-bodied receiver who brings some value on special teams as a gunner. So I would expect Malik Turner to see plenty of snaps in that third phase of the game, and then maybe even get some snaps in the 49ers wide receiver rotation if Juwan is not in there tomorrow against the Cardinals. Pearsall obviously will be up. Kendrick Bourne will be up. Marquez Valdez-Scantling will be up as the 49ers number 3 if Jennings can't go. And then I would think that Malik Turner is the number 4, with Sky Moore being the returner and the number 5 in that scenario. Now, if Jennings can go for San Francisco, then at least the guy that you called up and Malik Turner has good special teams value for the 49ers. Probably more special teams value. I would say certainly more special teams value than somebody like Russell Gage. Now, one of the big omissions is that Nick Zakelj did not get the bump up from the practice squad, not even the temporary elevation. So what does that mean? Well, Connor Colby, the 49ers rookie left guard, hurt his groin during practice on Thursday, is questionable for this game. Maybe he's going to be healthy enough to start, but this definitely means that Drew Moss, for the first time in his NFL career, is not going to be a healthy scratch at guard. Enough faith in Moss to at least back up Connor Colby in this game. They do also have the luxury of Matt Hennessy, who has started a full season at left guard back in his time with the Atlanta Falcons. He's the backup center for Jake Brendel. So theoretically, Matt Hennessy can be the first person off the bench if the 49ers still think that Drew Moss is too raw to enter an NFL game. But it is progress for Moss. There is enough trust for the 49ers to not make him inactive in this game. He's being carried, or had been carried on this roster, as a developmental piece. They didn't want him poached by another team. That's why he made the 53 instead of the practice squad. But since Zakelj stays put on the practice squad for this one, it does appear that Drew Moss has taken a step forward in his roster journey. Now, we're still going to wait and see what the deal is tomorrow with Connor Colby, the 49ers rookie out of Iowa. Big win for Iowa last night against Rutgers. So out at the bar in the marina, and there I saw Iowa blocking a field goal against Rutgers and then salting the game away late without Connor Colby on that offensive line. It's a guy who was an Iron Man at Iowa. I don't even know if he missed a single start at Iowa. I mean, just a machine at Iowa. Durable up front, and it looked like he was durable for the 49ers. Might still be very durable for the 49ers, but it just so happened that 2 days before his first regular season start, because Ben Barch had gone to IR earlier this week with a high ankle sprain. Connor Colby hurt his groin in practice, making him questionable for this game. So that was the red alert for San Francisco yesterday. People were talking Drew Moss or Nick Zakelj. Those are the top two possibilities. Moss gets the nod, not Zakelj, because Zakelj not elevated from the practice squad. Now, important to note that there is a 53-man spot now open for the 49ers. We had talked about all kinds of Rubik's Cube possibilities yesterday in my article up on the San Francisco Standard. You know, the craziest potential possibility. Like, I just outlined every single possible move the 49ers could make depending on their level of desperation to try to, fit some of these spots. We never know exactly where a player is as far as his probability to play, but there was a chance and there was an opportunity for the 49ers, if they needed to do it, to promote 2 practice squad players to the 53-man roster, to elevate 2 other players from the practice squad temporarily for Sunday, and have Brock Purdy as the emergency QB3. But even if they had done all those moves, they still would have to open up a roster spot, make yet another move, even with no injuries, which is a pipe dream probably for any NFL game. But even with no injuries, they'd have to make another roster move to clear space for Demarcus Robinson, the wide receiver whose 3-game suspension will end following this week. So what the 49ers have done now is they've done some of the moves that we talked about yesterday, not all of them. And it's left them with a 53-man roster spot open entering the game tomorrow. Now, because you have inactives, it doesn't really affect their game day roster. It's not like they're going a guy short, but it does signal that, obviously we're going to have to wait to see how they come out of this game injury-wise, because that could change some of these plans. But it does signal that they are bracing for the activation of Demarcus Robinson from down here, from the suspended list. Isaac Alarcon, Demarcus Robinson. I think Alarcon is 6 games. He's likely to be a practice squad guy. Demarcus Robinson, though, obviously a 53-man roster guy. And as you can see, that wide receiver room, which has been straining for the 49ers to stay healthy, and they haven't really done a great job of it. Juwan Jennings and Jordan Watkins now both shaded on the injury report, and obviously Brandon Ayuk is on PUP. I think that room can really, really use the veteran infusion of presence that Demarcus Robinson can bring to the table. He had a really good training camp and a really good preseason. They maxed out his reps in the preseason, knowing that he'd be suspended likely for the first 3 games, and that suspension is about to be over for Demarcus Robinson. So those are the 49ers roster moves. One more time, I know a lot of people are joining. You're probably having a great day out in the Bay Area. Oh, some of you are in the Bay Area. Some of you probably aren't. But if you're not in the Bay Area and you want to see what it looks like here, you're in luck. This is out by Aquatic Park. This is where I swam today. The water was nice and warm. Probably not for your standards, but for my standards, it was nice and warm. Had a good time. Very refreshed. Nice and sunny. Got to get back out into that sun. But first, we've got to get this roster update done for San Francisco. So the moves again: Burford to IR, Faith and Pleasance there. Martinez and Turner are the elevations. And that means that there is no Nick Zakelj elevation. Probably some faith in Drew Moss to at least be a backup and be active. But we're going to wait on the final Connor Colby and Brock Purdy statuses tomorrow. Although that Martinez elevation means that one of the options for Purdy, the emergency QB3 option, is ruled out. I get that it sounds like a Rubik's Cube, because it is. It's why my 49ers 53-man depth chart and 70-man roster is color-coded, because it's like a Rubik's Cube that the 49ers are trying to solve every single weekend. This one more complicated than usual, but this is why I leave the sunshine here in San Francisco to sit down in the studio and discuss this stuff with the roster spreadsheet out there for you, because I think that it is something that deserves the illustration. 49ers, I believe, still favored against the Arizona Cardinals, even though their backup quarterback, Mac Jones, is likely to start this game. I had a few thoughts about the game this morning in my prediction as we were on our way to the Dolphin Club, so be sure to check that out. My biggest one is, everybody talks about speed and Kyler Murray and waving goodbye to the 49ers defense, still 30 yards from the end zone on the second play of the game last year. Well, I think the 49ers defense has gotten a lot faster. And it's not just my opinion. That's a fact. I mean, they've replaced Dre Greenlaw, who, by the way, bad news coming out of Denver. Dre Greenlaw has been placed on injured reserve with his quad injury. So Dre has yet to play a single down for the Denver Broncos after leaving there in free agency. You really get an idea of why the 49ers didn't put the full court press on signing Dre Greenlaw. They were interested in retaining him, but they did not go full gung-ho in their pursuit of Dre this offseason. And it's just, just too bad to hear. It's a guy who obviously struggled to stay healthy for the 49ers and is now struggling to stay healthy after that offseason quad injury. He's now going to miss at least the next 4 games on top of the first 2 that he's already missed. So the soonest that Denver is going to see Dre Greenlaw, and I think it's even hard to bet on that right now, is week 7. And just tough news. But anyway, when I talk about the 49ers defense getting faster, Dre obviously moved well. D. Winters moves better. D. Winters ran a 4.4 coming out of TCU. So they've got a linebacker now next to Fred Warner running a 4.4. They've replaced Jair Brown, who ran a 4.65 coming out of Penn State, with Marquise Siegel, who ran a 4.3 coming out of Kansas State. Jason Pinnock, the other new starting safety, ran a 4.4. So both safeties faster than what the 49ers had last year. Jair Brown is still playing for this team, but in a very situational big nickel role, which I think also increases the speed of the team because he's faster than a linebacker at that spot. Bryce Huff has the fastest get off in the league opposite Nick Bosa. I mean, all of this stuff is significant when you're talking about Kyler Murray. They call Kyler Murray the squirrel on the other side. I think DeForest Buckner would call him a squirrel because he just shoots away from you and he's really hard to corral. Well, I mean, you got to be disciplined no matter what, but it really, really does help if you've got D. Winters instead of Devondre Campbell out there. I mean, D. Winters speed-wise upgrade over Dre Greenlaw, definitely an upgrade over Devondre Campbell, who couldn't get off a block on that early touchdown read option run from Kyler Murray last year. So that's a big component of this matchup. The 49ers are much faster defensively than they were last year. On the other side of the ball, Arizona, we know that it's tough for them injury-wise. They're down likely their top 3 cornerbacks in this game because Will Johnson is doubtful with a groin injury. The 49ers are, as you can see, banged up on the offensive line, banged up in that receiver room, but they've shown the ability to pass despite a lot of these problems over the course of the first couple weeks of the season. And I'm sure that Arizona is going to try to make them pass again. But last week, Mac Jones with 39 pass attempts was successful in doing so. Brock Purdy in week 1 with one of the highest QB scores in football was successful in using his arm against the defense that was challenging the 49ers to throw the ball downfield. I don't know if Arizona is going to be willing to do that with some of the secondary injuries that they do have. The season is this long novel, and each game is a chapter. And strategically, some of the chapters affect the next ones coming up after it, right? So if the 49ers have seen a lot of passing success over 2 weeks, you would think that at some point, some of these boxes will loosen up. Maybe tomorrow's the day that happens because Arizona is so beaten up in the secondary that they will need some extra help back there. And maybe that leads to a 49ers run game renaissance. So far, they're just near 3 yards a carry. So far, they haven't been all too productive on the ground, but there are many reasons for it. And we try to look at a bigger sample, and it's only 2 games so far. We need to see how the season's going to flow. Instead of getting stuck in a trap of just looking at 2 games, we need to see how the 49ers are going to, how defenses are going to play the 49ers mainly. And we're going to need to see how the 49ers respond to it before we can identify what exactly the San Francisco offense is good at and bad at. And this is why offensive balance ultimately is so important. It's fundamental to what Kyle Shanahan runs. He needs a balanced offense because you always want to capitalize on what the defense is overplaying. They've been overplaying the run through 2 weeks. The 49ers have capitalized with the pass. Now the 49ers are waiting for teams to overplay the pass, and maybe it's going to take the quarterback, Brock Purdy, returning, and maybe it's going to take the wide receiver room getting a little bit healthier. I know that DeMarcus Robinson, again, is returning next week. We'll see where Jawan Jennings is at with his status for tomorrow. But I'm very, very excited for this next chapter of the novel at 1:25 p.m. 49ers are going to be wearing their all-white uniforms for this game against Arizona, the 94 throwback. So it's going to be a bit of a trip. Arizona's going to be out there on the 49ers home field wearing all red, but it should be fairly warm, desert atmosphere of Santa Clara in the month of September. September 21st, actually going to be the first day of fall tomorrow. Summer finally ends, but first day of fall still going to be warm out there at Levi's. The 49ers wanted to make sure that they get as much of a heat advantage as possible with those white uniforms. So those are the moves. I now will have answers to all of your great questions. I am ready for them. Make sure that you do check out the San Francisco Standard. Article is right there up on your screen. The 49ers 6 layers of potential QB maneuvers ahead of the matchup with the Cardinals. Article aged well. 49ers didn't execute everything that they could have executed, but they still had to consider all 6 of those layers, and they are now all set to go for their game against the Cardinals tomorrow. Obviously, with some decisions on actives and inactives, Brock Purdy and Connor Colby being the most notable ones, coming 90 minutes before kickoff. So I'll be there bright and early tomorrow to report on everything that I see from Levi's Stadium, on Brock Purdy's initial workouts to whether or not he's active or inactive. So you might as well hit that subscribe button right now, because the coverage is only going to get more in-depth as this week continues. The one video, everything is crushing it. We're getting tens of thousands of views on everything, but you guys are not watching the pregame stadium lives as much as we thought you'd be. So everybody maybe you're watching the previous game or something like that, or maybe you're not awake. Maybe you're hungover on Sunday morning if it's a 10 a.m. game. But last week we were walking around the Superdome, and I was always under the impression that was one of our favorite products. So we need more people on the pregame stadium tour from the field. Shout out to Greg Papa, by the way. I know he hasn't been around this year, but those of you who know the Levi's Stadium live pregame field tour, Greg would be on the field. I'd be wandering around the field doing the live, and invariably over the years, we would always run into Greg, and I'd have a second mic for him, and I'd clip the mic on him, and Greg would join our show for 4 or 5 minutes, just kind of an impromptu pregame show. So you never know who you're going to run into when I'm live on the field. I mean, one time we ran into Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman joined us for a few seconds there before he had to go on air. So it was all really, really good stuff, and it's going to be good stuff tomorrow, starting at Levi's Stadium. Home opener. Can't wait to wrap it up, too, with an instant reaction after the game. All right, I'm here to answer some of your very good questions about what the 49ers are facing tomorrow and about some of these roster moves. I understand it was choppy last week, but that's because the Superdome Wi-Fi failed us. It's never choppy at Levi's Stadium. So some weeks, we're on the road, it's going to be a little hard, but tomorrow we're going to get that fixed. We're going to do it from the field at Levi's Stadium. Be ready to watch that. I know that it's a big 10 a.m. game. What I'm going to try to do is get out there and do that at some point between 10 and 11 a.m. Maybe I even get out there sooner. So we get that done well ahead of the start of the game. And that way, ahead of the 49ers game, but that way we also beat the 10 a.m. games. I don't know. Set your alarm clocks, set the subscribe notification bell, and you'll know when we're going live from the field. I mean, come on. We got to have at least 1,000 people watching that simultaneously, right? We got to get away from these numbers in the 400s. That's not good enough. That's not acceptable. Like this stream right here. We're on both Twitter, X, I guess I should say, and YouTube, and we still were over 800, and I think we're right around 800 as I see here on YouTube. So those are good numbers. We got to have that for the stadium tour. Barry asking how those new video boards. They're very large, very big video boards at Levi's Stadium. Most video board 4K video board square footage in the entire NFL. What chance does Moss have to start? Well, it might depend on Connor Colby's status if Colby's a game day decision tomorrow. But it does appear that they have enough faith in Moss to start, unless it would be a surprise start of Matt Hennessy, who has been at left guard before. But I don't think so. I think that this was between Moss and Zakel, and they decided with Moss, and that now we just await Connor Colby's status at left guard. You at the Superdome last week. I love it. Did you enjoy it? It seemed like quite the tailgate scene out in the heat outside with 49ers fans. Any chance that Nick Martin gets a chance to suit up tomorrow? No, I don't think so. I think, well, I mean, there haven't been any injuries in front of him at linebacker. I think that over time, Nick Martin will get his opportunity. He's probably making progress behind the scenes, but the most likely step forward for Nick Martin into a game day role will be as somebody filling in for an injury. And then he'll get some special teams ops, and then maybe he'll work his way up into a third linebacker role. I don't know if that's going to be this season. He is the developmental linebacker. That's the simplest way to put it. Lower floor, higher ceiling, but you've got to go with the higher floor when you're talking about a backup linebacker for this football team. Invader 49er says, let Martin marinate. I think that's exactly what is happening right now. Do I believe that the 49ers can protect Mac Jones as well as last week? Well, big question mark is going to be that left guard position. Dalvin Tomlinson is a load at defensive tackle. Calais Campbell is a load at defensive tackle for the Cardinals. Two vets, and they're going to be working, it looks like, against the rookie. Either Connor Colby, if he does play, and he might not be 100%, or Drew Moss in his first career starts. That's a question spot for sure. If the 49ers are fine there, they've got a shot to stymie this Arizona pass rush. They did a very good job, you're right, last week against the New Orleans Saints, but we've got to let these games play out. Moss is strong as an ox, according to Chris Furster, but he doesn't quite have the length that you would like to have for a guard at the NFL level. Can he overcome that with his mentality, his technique, his play, his speed, quickness? Maybe, but he's very strong. So we just have to give him a shot if he does play, and then we'll evaluate Drew Moss accordingly. Nigel asking, what are the elevations made from the practice squad? Malik Turner is the wide receiver who's up from the practice squad, and Adrian Martinez, the QB for the 49ers. So means that Purdy's not going to be the emergency third tomorrow. We have some predictions. I made my prediction earlier. The prediction video is up, so when I'm done here, make sure to go watch it. Nice little driverless car video, a little Waymo making its way through the city. I predicted something similar to you, Marcus, not quite the same, but something similar to that. And I hold on to my prediction even after the roster moves. Do I think that we play 3 tight end sets to assert the run, asks Siggy Slight. I don't think the 49ers go away from what they've been running. They don't run a lot of 13 personnel, especially without George Kittle. The Cardinals play the most 13 3 tight end personnel in the entire NFL. So I expect to see a lot of that. I'm very intrigued to see how the 49ers are going to counter it. Does that mean Jair Brown at the big nickel? But it's not about just ramming your head against the wall to run if you're the 49ers. You're fine with Arizona stacking the box or playing these defenses that are designed to really limit the run if it opens up passing room. It's why they invested in a better quarterback too this year, because the 49ers said, hey, even if Brock Purdy is not healthy, not ready to go for a game, we want a quarterback that can punish opposing defenses gambling too much against the run. You don't open up the run by trying to press it harder. You open up the run by throwing and making the defense back off of the line of scrimmage. That opens up some of the lanes. It opens up some of the one-on-ones. I don't think that the 49ers are going to force 3 tight ends onto the field just to run the football tomorrow. I think that the 49ers are going to play within their natural flow, within their natural balance, and expect some results coming out of that. But I mean, the fact that you mentioned 3 tight ends does lead me to say, yes, expect to see 3 tight ends in this game, but from the team wearing red, not the 49ers. The Cardinals, they'll be in their all red, and Trey McBride, that's a tough guy to guard. Over 100 catches last year. The 49ers are going to have to be ready for that. Thoughts on Purdy? Right now, he's the number 8 guard in all of football in terms of pass blocking, when I don't think that he's fully right. I think that Dominic Purdy, working his way back from the knee that he suffered against the Raiders in week 2 of the preseason, knocking off some rust. I know that he got rolled up on during the last game, but yeah, I think he is making year 2 strides. Remember, he didn't finish his first year particularly strongly. I think that opponents made some adjustments to Dominic Purdy, and Dominic Purdy wasn't quite able to make him back. And so I think that we're starting to see some of the more nuanced adjustments, counter adjustments, I suppose you could say, for Dominic Purdy. And that every single 49ers offensive lineman, by the way, in terms of pass protection on PFF, is ranked in the top 10 at his respective position. From Williams, that's the best ever do it on the left side, to the center, Jake Brendel, ranked number 2, graded number 2 of all centers, to Colton McKivitz, who's been just sensational so far this year, has only given up 1 legitimate pressure, to the guards, Dominic Purdy, number 8, as I said, amongst those guards, and Connor Colby, who is projected to start, but we're not sure, obviously, because of the injury. All those guys have been really, really good in pass protection, and that was very important for Mac Jones last week. Invader 49er always has some astute takes. He says Benson doesn't beat the 49ers every year, but James Conner does or can. I mean, the read option that Arizona runs, everybody talks about Kyler Murray, but I think James Conner deserves some more respect. I mean, before Murray had the big touchdown around the corner last year where Devondre Campbell couldn't get off the block, James Conner had a big 7 or 8 yard gain on first down. I mean, the guy's a load to bring down. He's 230 plus. He's got big strides. You're a little bit out of position. You don't have good technique tackling James Conner. He's going to trample you. And they run all that crunch action on the inside, and that opens up Kyler Murray to the edge if you get too sucked into the inside. So Murray and James Conner, it's a lightning and thunder package, right? Murray is the lightning, and James Conner brings the thunder on those interior runs. The read option is difficult to defend from this Arizona Cardinals team, but the 49ers are going to have to be ready for it. And again, they have much more team speed on defense, the 49ers do, than last year. They also have a better coordinator in Robert Saleh. He's ready to use that speed. So I think that this has been a big step up for the 49ers in terms of personnel and coaching against Kyler Murray and company. Jamie texted me. He's in Malta. Jamie, sorry I haven't texted you back yet. I've been running around today. Jamie in Malta, one of the beautiful places in the world. If you give me permission, I'm going to post one of these videos, Jamie. You could text me permission. He texted me videos from a balcony in Malta. It looks insane, but he has a question here, out of left field question. Does it look to you like Connor Colby could be the 49ers' next left tackle? He already is surpassing pass protection expectations, and he's next to a Hall of Famer who wants to get into coaching. The perfect storm. He's talking about Trent Williams. So Colby has played guard throughout basically his entire collegiate and now NFL career. That being said, it's an intriguing thought because somebody like Spencer Burford actually ended up being a better tackle than a guard. And Spencer played tackle in college. So that was at Texas San Antonio. So the measurables for Spencer Burford and for Connor Colby coming out of college suggested that he'd be a guard and not a tackle in the 49ers system. For Burford, it was, even though he played tackle in college. But sometimes it's not just about the measurables. Sometimes, and maybe more of the time than we would like to admit, I mean, just look at Brock Purdy. It's about how the guy actually performs on the field. There's a certain intangible to performing. And yes, at a certain level, you can't overcome physical limitations. I mean, sometimes as an offensive lineman, the reach has to be long enough, the foot quickness has to be adept enough, and the speed and the power has to be present enough to take on some of these hard charging defensive linemen. But assuming that you hit a certain threshold, kind of like assuming a quarterback can make a certain threshold of throws, the out, the slant, the seam throw, a deep ball with good enough touch, assuming that you're at an acceptable level in terms of skill. Sometimes whatever happens beyond that doesn't matter if you're enough of a gamer. If you understand how to play whatever your position is on the football field with the other 10 guys on your unit. And I think that's what Connor Colby has shown the 49ers at guard so far. And that's why he burrowed his way to the backup job right behind Ben Barch and was ready to have success as soon as Barch went down, and was in line, at least earlier this week, to be the starter at left guard. Maybe he still is. We'll see tomorrow. So I think that Connor Colby has pleasantly surprised the 49ers in that way. Whether he can do it at tackle, that's a taller ask because there's more space that needs to be covered, right? Guards, in a way, can hide a little bit in the interior of that line because it's more of a phone booth. There's more mano a mano combat. Tackles, they're on the exterior of the line, so they're having to move several yards sometimes. Their shuffle has to take them a big part of the football field, because you see guys like Bryce Huff, thankfully for the 49ers, he's on their team, but Bryce Huff, they're running the hoop on the outside, and they're coming in hot with speed off the ball. So the tackle has to be able to get from point A to point B with very, very elite quickness in the NFL level. And then he has to be ready for counter moves coming inside. Then he's got to be ready for bull rushes and power. So he's got to be able to anchor even while he's delivering speed. There's a reason why the 49ers, when they're trying to draft tackles, say that only really, truly elite physical characteristics, which are typically gone after the first few picks of the draft, that those are the ones that the 49ers covet. And then the tackles that make it for San Francisco, who aren't picked at the very top of the draft, it usually takes those guys a while to develop, with case A being Colton McKivitz, 5th round pick in 2020 for San Francisco. So I think it's a really good question from Jamie in Malta, but I do think that it would be ambitious to think that Connor Colby right now could be that left tackle. So I love the thought, though. And I also remember that Colton McKivitz played guard before he played tackle for the 49ers. And when you have a guy under a rookie contract and he's healthy early in his deal, there is an opportunity for development to happen over the course of 4 years, into where you could probably start to envision him at a different position if things are going in the right direction before it's time to renew his contract. And the 49ers can operate with whatever intel they're getting from what they see with Connor Colby on that football field right now. First things first, we're going to need to see if the 49ers have Connor Colby ready to go tomorrow, because the offensive line tomorrow with Drew Moss in there, or if it's Matt Hennessy as an emergency option, but I think it's likely going to be Drew Moss, that would be a big challenge on the fly. Consider the fact that Connor Colby got hurt during practice on Thursday. So the 49ers had already put in a lot of work with Colby in this game plan. This would be Moss's first career start with not a full week of practice as a first string lineman. So there's a bit of a scramble drill going on right now for the 49ers. And there are some vets on the other side, and Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell, who can possibly, are definitely licking their chops, but can possibly take advantage of any weaknesses that the 49ers do show. Got another funny text from Jamie. Can't read this one on air. Dude, let me know if I could show your videos, man. If not, then I won't. But I mean, if not, just type in Malta. Margot and I were in Malta this off season, as you know. We did some cool 49ers shows from Malta, a little island south of Sicily, and boy, oh boy, like quality spot to visit. Still under the radar. I did some cliff jumping into the ocean in Malta and little swimming, like the Mediterranean Sea, perfect temperature, kind of like a hybrid of Italian, Sicilian cuisine, African, North African cuisine, and Middle Eastern food. Because this island is strategically like right smack dab in the middle of the Mediterranean. So it's within shot of all these very, very different places. And then it all converges in one of the smallest countries in the world. I wish that Malta was known for their burritos. Unfortunately, they're not. That's kind of funny, though. Yes, Kyle Juszczyk is going to be playing. He is through concussion protocol and off of the injury report. Let's get some questions in here, guys. The 49ers don't run a quarterback spy. That's very rare that Saleh would do that. Stay disciplined and you will contain Murray. It's all about discipline. You know, the problem with a spy is you're counting on the spy to be as fast as the quarterback. Kyler Murray's really fast. Like, say that a lot of teams will run a spy, and then the other 10 defenders think they don't have to worry about, the nuanced discipline that it takes to be in position to tackle a really speedy QB. Well, then it's the QB against the spy. And if Kyler Murray outruns your spy, if that's D. Winters, and the other 10 guys have decided to disregard what Kyler Murray might do, it's a house call, right? The spy is like, that's a video game kind of thing where, okay, I'm going to run this and this guy's not going to be able to run. It's not that simple. You're still leaving yourself up to a one-on-one matchup that's really, really hard to win. So it's more about 11-man discipline on defense. And the 49ers absolutely have to show that across the entire board. They have to fight off blocks. I mean, they're going to run some scrape technique on these read options. So when you see Nick Bosa crashing into James Conner, even though Conner doesn't have the ball, don't yell at the screen saying Nick Bosa's doing something wrong. That's Bosa's assignment. He's going to be counted on to take out the running back, and then it's going to be the weak side linebacker, in all likelihood, Dre Greenlaw, in all likelihood, D. Winters in this game. Sorry, a little slip up there. Dre heading to IR. Bad news coming out of Denver. It's going to be D. Winters who needs to fight off blocks better than Devondre Campbell last year. The cornerbacks are going to have to be very present for the 49ers. It's going to take an entire team effort for San Francisco to deliver. We're going to put the new and improved Wi-Fi at Levi's Stadium to the test for the on-field live. Hopefully it's better than the Superdome, which had us cutting out last week. All right, guys, everybody, thanks for watching. One more time through some of the news for the 49ers. Adrian Martinez elevated. So Brock Purdy is not going to be quarterback 3. He could still be quarterback 2, or even in a highly unlikely scenario, quarterback 1. But it's Martinez and Malik Turner elevated. Juwan Jennings is questionable for the 49ers. No Nick Zakelj elevation means either Connor Colby or Drew Moss. All of this adds up to intrigue tomorrow. And we knew that there would be big news today. We'd go through these roster moves and I'd break them all down for you. But we also knew that that would only be half of it, that the actives, inactives tomorrow at 90 minutes would be really, really huge. So I'll be out tomorrow, out on that field, well before 90 minutes. We're going to do our show in the morning from Levi's, from the field. We're going to test out the new Wi-Fi, You can give it a thumbs up tomorrow if you think it's good. So hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Check out the San Francisco Standard. Article is linked below this video. That's all the roster machinations. Have a good Saturday. Enjoy the sunshine. Always remember that this is what San Francisco looks like today. Everybody, take care.